It's December 19th, 2010. We're in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the Philadelphia Eagles and New York Giants are tied at 31 in the closing seconds, and DeSean Jackson just muffed this punt. Officially, every outcome is on the table as these teams battle to control the division. You might know what comes next, but to remember how we got here, or why we really shouldn't be here, let's rewind. This image perfectly sums up the NFC East. Chaotic, sloppy, anything can happen. That said, we aren't far removed from when it felt like everything bounced Philly's way. Statistically, the Eagles are the NFC's most successful team of the last decade. 8 playoff appearances, 5 conference championship games, just 0 Lombardi trophies. Philadelphia's currently at a crossroads, trying to thread the needle between past and present. That's made for some tough recent moves. In the span of 13 months, Philadelphia said goodbye to 3 of its cornerstones. Bryans, Westbrook, and Dawkins, plus Donovan McNabb, had all been career Eagles and legendary franchise stars. Dawkins left first. The Eagles wanted to keep him, just not at the price tag offered elsewhere. Philadelphia released Westbrook as the injuries piled up for the 30-year-old running back. Uncharacteristically, he fired off a parting shot at the franchise. Basically, he didn't know if management wanted to win as badly as the players did. Interesting words as Philly cobbled together its new identity. McNabb's departure included a bit more fanfare. It had been rumored for a few years that a split loomed. McNabb voiced concerns over the team around him, specifically its lack of playmakers. He also suggested the Eagles bring in one specific playmaker, quarterback Michael Vick, a month after his release from prison. After another early exit in 2009, plus a crowded quarterback room drawing interest from other teams, the Eagles moved on from the QB they drafted 2nd overall back in 1999. Obviously, football teams are made up of more than 3 players, but the Eagles without these guys felt weird. At the same time, a youth movement had already begun in Philadelphia. Starting in 2008, they rebuilt their receiving core with top 50 picks, DeSean Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. They joined a 5th-round gem, tight end Brent Selleck, then got some rejuvenated ground support in LaShawn McCoy. With Westbrook's replacement and receiving talent that rivaled, if not surpassed, anything McNabb had early in his career, the Eagles turned the keys over not to Vick, but to Kevin Kolb, their inexperienced but talented 2007 second-round pick who received some pretty optimistic comparisons. With so much change and a tough division, expectations for 2010 urged patience. But the NFC East hates being predictable. Kolb suffered a concussion in the first half of Week 1, and up stepped Vick. The quarterback, much like the entire Eagles organization, looked to prove that this modern iteration still had plenty left in the tank. Surrounded by Philadelphia's stockpile of young offensive talent, everything clicked. There were ups and downs, sure. Vick's NFC Player of the Month was followed up by a rib injury that knocked him out for a few weeks, but in Week 10, this offense had its coming out party. Visiting McNabb in Washington, the much-anticipated Monday night matchup ended quick. An 88-yard touchdown on the first play from scrimmage, a 35-0 lead just 1 play into the second quarter, 6 total touchdowns for Vick. That offensive spectacle helped the Eagles vault up the divisional standings. They won 5 of their last 6 coming into today, including one over the Giants, which set the teams on a collision course for the NFC East crown. Philly's looking for their first division title in 4 years, their longest drought since Andy Reid took over. And just as importantly, they're trying to prove that their window hasn't closed. That might be easier to prove if they had the ball right here. As for New York, these Gunners have a lot of hope resting on their shoulders as they hurtle downfield. The Giants are looking for some answers. They aren't far removed from an improbable Super Bowl victory against the previously undefeated Patriots, and they'd followed that up with their best regular season since 2000. But an immediate postseason exit at the hands of the Eagles preceded an even more disappointing 2009. Injuries and an inability to beat good teams led to New York's first postseason miss since '04. That said, entering this 2010 season, the roster still closely resembled their Super Bowl team. Despite 2009's doldrums, Eli Manning reached 4,000 yards passing for the first time in his career, made possible thanks to his young trio of receivers, including the other Steve Smith. Their two-pronged battering ram, hampered by injuries a season ago, looked ready to again support Manning on the ground. Most importantly, the veteran offensive line, one of the biggest culprits for their 2009 collapse, had an offseason to get healthy. Based on their last few seasons, experts struggled to peg how this team would fare, but many expected them to take the division. Some extra pressure to perform came by the way of their brand new $1.7 billion stadium opening up for this 2010 season. Would amenities at the new Meadowlands include a winning team? Or would tax dollars just fund heartbreak? Through their first 13 games, we still waited on a definitive answer. They jumped out to a comfortable NFC East lead, but saw it dry up following back-to-back divisional losses. Unlike a season ago, they began to right the ship for the final stretch. 3 straight wins ahead of showdown number 2 with Philly. Both teams entered today with identical records, but given how their first meeting went, New York needs the win more. Through the first 3 quarters, that absolutely showed. Everything went the Giants' way. Their defense allowed next to nothing from Philly's high-flying offense. They forced picks and fumbles, building on each Eagles' mistake to take a 24-3 halftime lead. The defense didn't let Philadelphia into the end zone until near the end of the third quarter, and even that required a short field via turnover for the Eagles' offense to pull off. Eli managed to give New York and its home crowd all the breathing room you'd think they needed, rebuilding the 21-point lead with 8 minutes and 23 seconds left. Only once in NFL history had a team come back after being down 21 with less time on the clock. Basically, the Giants were cruising. Oh, wait, nope. That's right. We are all tied up. But before we get to how the Eagles kept this game alive, it's worth remembering that when these teams play, nothing should be a surprise. Probably the rivalry's most noteworthy moment came in 1978. With the Eagles visiting New York, the Giants found themselves sitting on a 17-12 lead. 31 seconds left, ball in hand and no timeouts for Philly. New York just needed to run out the clock. But Giants quarterback Joe Pisarcik botched the handoff. The ball hit the turf and Eagles corner Herm Edwards scooped it up, returning it for 6. Giants fans know this moment as the fumble. For the rest of us, it's the miracle at the Meadowlands. Nearly a decade later to the day, these teams again found themselves vying to win the division. Locked in overtime, the Eagles had their game-winning field goal attempt blocked, which just allowed for this much more dramatic scene to unfold. Defensive end Clyde Simmons lumbered into the end zone, which helped Philly win the tiebreak and eventually the division. In 1999, again in overtime, the Giants finally got the late-game magic. Michael Strahan picked off Eagles QB Doug Peterson and took it back 44 yards to steal the win in front of a packed Philadelphia crowd. And as proof to the fact this rivalry has seen it all, they've even had a miraculous late-game punt return swing the tide. A second-year Westbrook delivered that shocking nail in New York's coffin back in 2003. Along with a flair for dramatics, each of these moments came at the expense of the home team. That history has likely flashed through the minds of the New York crowd here today. They watched with glee as their team sat in the driver's seat up 31-10, looking to take the division lead late in the season. But after the defense had done their best to keep the Eagles quiet, late in the fourth, Michael Vick remembered how to be Michael Vick. Philly's comeback attempt began with one quick score. Given the weapons available, a 65-yard touchdown to the tight end Selleck seemed least likely. Even less likely was Philly converting an onside kick right after, but when the Giants seemingly never anticipated the attempt, a perfect bounce comfortably sailed where only the Eagles could recover. That left Vick with 7.5 minutes to find 2 touchdowns. He called his own number often, covering 35 yards on one scamper before punching it in from 4 yards out. After Philly's D forced a punt, Vick again went to work. 33 yards on the ground, another 22 after that. And with 90 seconds left, Vick found Macklin for the game-tying score. 21 points in just over 6 minutes, silencing the packed new Meadowlands. The drive that followed might turn out to be even more important, though. New York took over at their own 36 with all 3 timeouts. A minute 10 remaining, New York had plenty of time to get into field goal range for a game winner. But on first down, incompletion. Second down, incompletion. They suddenly faced 3rd and 10 after just 10 seconds ticked off the clock. When Philly sacked Manning on 3rd down, that ensured at least one more play in regulation. Had either of their first 2 pass attempts been complete, or they'd called a run, clock could have hit 0. Instead, we're here. If there's any silver lining for New York, surely a punt returner facing the wrong direction chasing after the ball has little chance at a miraculous return, right? Well, let's talk about DeSean Jackson. There are explosive players, and then there's Jackson. D-Jax burst onto the scene his sophomore year at Cal. He earned first-team All-Pac-10 honors both as a receiver and punt returner. He was named top returner in the nation thanks to 4 punt return touchdowns. That easily put him on the Eagles' radar, who ahead of the 2008 draft needed some receiving help, as well as a boost on special teams. When Philly drafted Jackson in the 2nd round, his new QB recognized the talent, but also figured no returner could fare well if the guys around him weren't blocking. While there's logic to that, with Jackson it honestly might not matter. In his first NFL game, Jackson showed that spark. 47 yards on his first career catch, a 60-yard punt return, 100+ receiving on the day, and nearly matched that with returns. Possibly better than advertised. That said, in game number 2, he delivered a slightly more infamous moment. On what should have been Jackson's first career touchdown, after torching the Cowboys secondary, he celebrated a couple inches early and never got the ball across the goal line. That big play potential swung both ways. Later that rookie season against the Bears, after finally notching his first professional touchdown, he also fumbled on a punt return, which set up the go-ahead score for Chicago. But hey, nobody's perfect. When a rookie makes rookie mistakes, what matters is how they rebound. And in year number 2, Jackson did more than rebound. He tied the NFL record for most 50+ yard touchdowns in a season. That included a 72-yard return and a 60-yard catch against the Giants in a Week 14 shootout that helped Philly into the playoffs and further derailed New York's season. While he's continued to be electric in 2010, today's game has been a bit of a dud for Jackson. He was held without a catch until the end of the 3rd quarter. And in the 4th, on what should have been a huge play, fumbled the ball away. The most painful part, replay showed Jackson clearly had been touched on his way down, but Andy Reid never threw the challenge flag, and the Giants were set up with a short field where they retook their 21-point lead. And now, when given a chance to really make an impact, Jackson muffed the punt. If the Giants can manage to take control of this ball, it would squash Philadelphia's historic comeback. New York could not just win this game, but retake the division lead in their quest to right the ship after a disappointing 2009. For the Eagles, in a year already packed with storylines, hope might be lost if they fumble away this chance. They've made some tough decisions, said some difficult goodbyes, but can still prove that the team's window for contention hasn't closed. And if there's anyone in the league capable of making something out of nothing, it's this guy. As the final seconds tick off the clock at the new Meadowlands, welcome to a moment in history.
Jackson bobbles it and now has to try and recover. DeSean Jackson gets a block! Are you kidding? DeSean Jackson still not in and now in for the touchdown, no flags.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Rewinder presented by Honda. If you want more, well, we've got more. The chef special today is Donovan McNabb vs. T.O. Beef, but lots of other options on the menu. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.